So we are live. Uh, Today we're gonna dive into the OODA loop.
Mm.
Yeah, that will be module one. So first we're gonna discuss what really is right OODA loop, from the meaning of the acronym to a little bit more what really means,
Mm.
right? Not just the theory of being able to describe that OODA loop. It stands for this and this and this, but really have a true substance about the subject. Because what you see right now, Sean, in the media is a lot of people go to Google, like I ask you to do. You know what I mean? And
Professor Google.
Professor Google, right? So they go there and they capture what they read, and they go to Instagram and make a quick video and try to showcase themselves as an expert in OODA loop or any subject for that matter, right? As you may know, the internet is a great tool. Like any great tool, uh, it have two sides: a good side and a bad side. I don't even say bad side. I'm saying the people using the internet can use for good or bad. I think that's a better statement about the internet. Matter of fact, the internet is not good or bad; it
Right.
just is,
Right.
right? But unfortunately, what I'm trying to say is it became an outlet, right, for a lot of people, smart people, and for a lot of keyboard warriors, people that doesn't have any substance to offer, and they have just a theory, and they dump that on the internet. And a lot of people hungry for knowledge, they look at that video or a meme, right? And they take that as a face value, as a true value for,
Mm.
and they try to apply it to their lives. So that's a bad karma to have. That's why I'm very careful what I put out there, because it's a lot of responsibility. A lot of young kids that go to YouTube, they go to Instagram, unfortunately, uh, to get knowledge, because people nowadays they are too lazy, right? They're too lazy to pick up a book, right, and read it because it's hard.
Mhm.
It's it demands an effort to grab a book and actually read and try to digest, have
Mhm.
a critical thinking about what you are reading. That's a lot of work. So they want that already digested for them. So that's why they look for videos. They look for a quick escape, right? That don't force them to use their brains.
Mm.
So what do you think about that?
No, I agree with everything. Especially the last statement. Reading and critical thinking is kind of becoming a dying art. You know, and I think my generation was kind of the last one to actually do it. And I arrived late in the game, and I won't blame my upbringing or anything like that. But
Hmm.
there was this search for more in my life, and books and knowledge have filled some of that, you know. And to touch on the earlier comment you made about people and how they kind of just read. I probably could do a tutorial on the OODA loop as well, the OODA loop as well, to join some of the shitbags out there. Uh, but it really since we started talking about that, and I started to break down and pause
Hmm.
before before I would make a decision, and hopefully long before, so I could be in the observe portion of the informational loop, and then orienting my way towards a good theory, or what I feel like could be the best outcome, and then deciding to act.
Uh-huh.
you know um, I see how it's some of my decision making is a little bit more crisp when
Mm-hmm.
I do that. When I texted you the other day, I was at work, and the OODA loop was working out pretty well for me. And then I just kind of got to this dull section in my mind where it was
Mm-hmm.
just like I was just going through the motions, and I had to measure. I didn't measure. That was the problem. So I just was like, I can just eyeball this thing. So I eyeballed the thing 3 times before I told my laborer to go grab the fucking tape measure so that I could, you know. And it was just like, yeah, you failed. You failed to get good information, and then that's where I went wrong on that. But I
Mm-hmm.
was last night I was studying
Mm-hmm.
one of our fights, not one of our because Carlos had a fight, and he got I don't know if you know Carlos, big tall kid. He's
Mm-hmm.
he's been coming around for a while. He got absolutely humiliated,
Mm-hmm.
and it was if we're talking about military and martial, specifically martial arts, he didn't do the intel. He didn't get good information about this guy who was 30 pounds bigger than him. If he was honest with himself, he's probably 60 pounds bigger than him because he's not an actual heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do any of the research necessary.
Okay, so he failed on observation,
He
right?
failed on observation and
On observation.
observation of himself as well,
Uh-huh.
probably orienting himself in a proper weight division.
Yeah, yeah, but you only can orient yourself if you do a good job
Right.
on
Observation.
observation
Yeah.
and if you know how to observe,
Right.
right? So, uh, the key for this module one is to make you understand that knowing the acronym and what that means is not enough. Okay, it's not enough because you have to understand the difference between observing and seeing. You know the difference? So, what is the main difference between seeing and observing?
Seeing and observing. So I think seeing would be the lesser of the two. Seeing would be something unfold and not really understanding what you're looking at.
No, that's maybe I failed to explain it to you.
Mm,
So, on observation, right? Both of us can observe the same thing,
sure.
but can you see what I'm seeing?
No, because I don't have your that kind of
That's
goes
what I'm
back to what
saying.
you were talking about, to the dissonance, the cognitive.
Exactly. So that's what I meant. So we just using metamotor just now,
Okay.
right? So we clarify, just make sure me and you, we are on the same page. It's one of the beautiful things about meta model, and that's why I want you to do your research first, right?
Mhm.
So here's the thing: most instructors that I know out there and that I see on the internet, they tell, "Hey, go to Instagram or go to Google, download what OODA loop is, a couple of pages, and they give you the link." Just I did that to you on purpose, and take a look. Here's the link for the Cooper color code and all that stuff. But when you come to their classes, they just brush uh, real fast
Mhm.
what OODA loop is, what the color code is. Anybody can do that, Sean. Anybody can say, hey, by the way, this is the OODA loop. It was created by Boyd, and O means observation. D is the other O means orientation, or whatever you want it. And action, right? Decision and then action. I mean, anybody can do that. I mean, you don't need to be, you don't even have to go and learn what it is. I mean, you're just telling what the acronym means. And then they take your money and you go home. If
Make a
you don't have,
generalized statement
yes,
about what that
yes.
is.
So there is two types of instructors you should be aware of, right? There is the subject matter expert, right? And pay attention to emphasis on the word subject matter experts and substance matter expert. Do you understand what I said by subject and substance?
I think I do.
Yeah,
Yeah. So subject is just somebody who probably a keyboard warrior who just
mhm,
who will read about generalized statements about what the actual subject is, as opposed to substance, who has some real world, perhaps real world context, hands-on experience with it. I think the difference would be experience versus hypothesis, right?
exactly. So in our system, right, that I developed, it's most of the framework is based on Miyamoto Musashi's work called The Book of Five Rings, one of the best strategy books that I recommend to anyone. Anyone. If you're interested to understand the strategy, that's a book to read, right? I often tell people this, right? Everything that I know, everything that you know, the most expert people in our generation, uh, everything that they know, they learn from somebody else, right? Nobody born with all that knowledge. So you learn from a lot of people. You read books, and you, of course, if you have the experience, substance matter, right?
Mm.
Expert, that's even better. If you lived that situation, you can speak from a place that it says, hey, I lived that scenario. I was there for whatever, 20 years, 15 years, right? So I can tell from experience that this really works, right? That's even better. But Miyamoto Musashi, he had a simple philosophy on learning and teaching. We call the TPA process, right? Is the T, the first T is theory. Then you have P, which stands for practice, meaning drilling, right? Testing your your subject. And then finally, the A means action, putting into action, right? You can have the best knowledge, right? You can have the best theory on the world about any subject,
Mm.
but if you never training, you never apply it, you never test it out, you're never gonna know if is that a solid technique or anything for that matter. And then you put that in work in a real situation. If you don't have a real situation, right, have actors, right, have somebody acting, right, pretending to be the bad guy, or if you are in a business meeting, somebody pretending to be, right, the other person that you try to sell that idea and try to beat you with the objections. You see,
The antagonist or something.
exactly, exactly. So it's like I tell you, hey, this technique works really good if somebody tried to go for a double leg takedown. And then I go to the whiteboard and I start to make equations about it. I'm very bright guy. I can bring you physics. I can show you the fulcrum of the arm lock. I can apply and graphics, and but I never show you the actual technique, right? And then you go home, right? But you never taste it. You
Mm.
never try to apply it, and then you never says, "Hey, go full speed, give me some little resistance here. Let's see if this technique really works, right?" So that's action. That's TPA step one, all the way down to action. That's the foundation of my system. Because if you don't put into action or either real or scenario that you try to put as much stress as you can put in, right? using actors, using outside influence as a stress inoculator to really test your theory and your practice. And then it says, hey, it really does work. And somebody says, hey, but if we tweak this a little bit better, right, I think the outcome will be more close to reality. And you say, yeah, thanks for that. And then you say, okay, let's try that again now with a little tweak here and there, and then it says, hey, now it's optimal, right? Now we can apply it. So that is what's missing out there. What I tell you is this, right? Never be a believer, right? Be a seeker. Right? I think I sent you that email.
Yes.
Do you comprehend what I mean by it? Being a seeker,
Yeah,
not a believer.
I do. I
Mm.
do. Not, not taking somebody's word for it. It kind of ties in with the whole, like, the other comment that you made in there is not having somebody to look up to, or looking down upon, specifically looking up to, because if I'm a believer, whatever you say, I'm going to take as the gospel, as opposed to saying, hey, I really need to see your work on that. I need to see the math that goes with that, so I can prove that it works, as
Yeah,
opposed to just,
uh, and that saying, depending who's listening to it, it could be very bad or very good. And
sure.
let me explain you why. When I say be a seeker, not a believer, I'm not saying you're gonna be that guy with cognitive dissonance that's gonna avoid everything altogether. You see the danger on that quote,
Hmm.
right? Because if I say that and I don't explain, you're gonna create a monster. You're gonna
Yeah.
create a guy that everything that he sees it says, nah, nah, not buying. It's not about that. What I'm
Contrarian, right? You just
yeah,
kind
what
of,
I'm yes. So you're gonna see somebody combative. So be careful what you say and don't explaining. That's why Madam Maud is here for. So being a here's the problem with the believer, right? He creates a tribe, and whatever you say to him, right? Then you have cognitive dissonance because it says, no, I believe that BJJ is the best martial arts for every situation, bar none, and here we go, right? You have a collision there, right? And then you have the multi guy say, no, multi is the only thing you need, right? You don't have to train anything else because you're all set, right? BJJ saves. That's what they say, right? BJJ saves lives. Or here comes the karate guy. So all you need is one punch, one kill, right? So before you knowing, right, you see yourself as a hammer, and all you see around you is a sea of nails, right? So what I'm saying is being a believer is dangerous because then you create a tunnel vision, right? You see that as a gospel truth, like you said, and then you don't see, right, the sea of opportunities that you have in front of you, behind you, on the sides. So saying, hey, this is what I know, I'm gonna stay here, I'm not gonna learn anything else, rather than, hey, I got you, let's take a look at this, let's study this, let's explore this, right? And let's apply it instead of saying, hey, I don't know about this, right? That's not what the quote is. Now, being a seeker, you always open their door to learn more, right? Don't look up to anybody means do not, do not put anybody on a pedestal. That's what it means,
Mhm.
right? Idolatry, right? Somebody sees a guru, and for them, that person is the source of light,
Sure.
right? So the word guru, I don't know if you know this, but the word guru, it doesn't mean anything special. It means somebody that sheds light. That's all it is, right? Guru guru is the guy that works like a road sign, right? Take left, take right, only 40 miles an hour, right? Boston, 45 miles away, right? It's just signs on your road that you're called life, right? A guru will just point the right way. Hey, you should go here, you should go there, right? He is not the owner of the truth. That's why it's very dangerous when you become a believer, because then you cannot see anything else. You see it happens all the time. You see it happens in politics, and we don't have to go deep into it. You can see it happens martial arts. People get fanatic about it. They
Sure.
don't learn anything else,
No.
right? They think, hey, I'm teaching self-defense, and I laughed about it. Says, are you really teaching self-defense? What do you mean by self-defense? Do you really know what it is, right? So it's very dangerous. So my advice for anybody listen to this is, if you seeking, right, for something, right, make sure you find somebody that just points you the way. It doesn't hold you down into a belief system. Being a believer is very dangerous, right? It keeps you from growing. That's all it is, right? Any
Couldn't agree
conclusion?
more. Couldn't
Huh?
agree. Couldn't agree more. No. No.
That's what we're doing today. Now, what are we doing today? We're talking about ideas, concepts. Is that the gospel truth? No. Can it change it tomorrow? Yes, it can,
Absolutely.
right? Once I said, hey, this is a gospel truth, it's never going to change, right?
Spiritual axiom or something like
Right.
that.
This is how religions and cults starts, right? Until somebody drinks the Kool-Aid and die. So we don't have to go there. You know the story. So uh, one thing about the OODA cycle or loop, or whatever you like to call it, is stuff that we're gonna talk today. I'm gonna tell you what is just a story. I'm gonna tell you what is, if it is just an anecdote, and we're going to talk about science, right? We're going to talk about why it's so important to be science based, right? Instead of being just in a speculation and a product of your bias. So the word bias today is very important not to forget, because once I put my bias into this, Sean, then it's just my opinion. It's based on my filters.
Mm.
And that's very dangerous when we say that, especially when you teach combatives, right? Bias should not be there, because personal bias, is very dangerous. So we have to work with science.
Mm.
And if you never try it, you should be honest. It says, hey, I never tried this. Science says that's the right thing to do, because a lot of instructors out there, they go to Google and they learn one thing or two about neuroscience. They learn a little bit about the neuroplasticity, which is the new thing now, and they speak as if they are a neuroscientist or a specialist on neuroplasticity. So nobody here is an expert on those things. We study, because right now you're gonna see neuroplasticity on how the brain changes, how the brain reshuffles knowledge inside of those files, how it morphs. It's a beautiful thing, and now everybody's bringing that inside of the shooting community, the people that teach combat, and that's a beautiful thing. But here's the thing, though: when people start to use that as if they are an expert, that's the dangerous part, right? That's the dangerous part.
Mm.
All right. And neuroscience shed a lot of light into the tactical community. Now people seeing, oh, we did this all wrong all these years. There is a new way to learn faster, effectively. So that's where we're gonna talk today. So we're gonna concentrate on the first letter, which is observation, right? So first, I hope you have a pad and paper. First, we're gonna talk about the foundation for identifying threats.
Sorry.
So we're gonna talk the foundation of for identifying threats. So
Repeat that one more time, Josh.
the foundation
Okay.
for identifying threats with my Brazilian accent, which makes it special. And feel free to ask me once, twice, even three times if you don't understand what I'm saying. There is no shame on it, right? Talking about perception, right? I was talking to a Harvard professor. She is retired, and I'm talking to her. And because she was a retired Harvard professor, nice old lady, I felt that I was talking to my grandma. And I said, I apologize for my English and my accent. She says, shame on you. You shouldn't say apologize. I said, she says, the English is the only language that I can speak. I wish I can speak Portuguese, just 1%, just 1%, as you speak English to me. So I thank
I can
her.
say all the dirty words in Portuguese.
Huh?
I can say all the dirty words.
Exactly, right. She said to me, "You speak better than the president," and the president back then was George W.
Oh man, he was a
That
special.
was a compliment. It was a compliment to me. But she said, "Here's the thing, and think about this." She said, "Because of your accent, you force people to pay attention to what you're saying."
You have to
How
kind of like
powerful is
listen
that?
in a little bit, like
How powerful is that?
yeah.
How powerful is that? So I thanked her, and I never forgot about her. So number one, what makes someone a threat? Right? That's number one. Number two, how to observe. HTO, how to observe. And third, the solution, technical, tactical, I'm sorry, analysis. Now let's take a look. What makes someone a threat, right? What makes someone a threat? Because here's the thing: if you are in a situation that you already see the ambush, right? Because that's why we're talking about ambush,
Right.
is because that's the most dangerous form of attack,
Right.
right? You don't know what's going on,
No.
right? You sip in your
Happens in a moment.
you sip in your cup in a Starbucks and you hear the noise bang really loud, right? You are already inside of the fray. You are inside, right? There is nothing to do but to react, right? Pay attention of the word react versus proactive, right? So when you hear that bang, the ambush is already happened. So don't look for threats, Sean. Look for the indicators of threat. See the difference? Because if you see the ambush already, is because you missed all the indicators, the pre-indicators of the ambush or threat. So talking about what makes someone a threat, we're talking about the difference between observing and seeing. Let's go back. Let's go back 2003, right? What happened March 20th, 2003? You remember?
Taking it back some time there, Master. It's been a lot
Right.
of
So
lot
I
of
don't.
punches to the face since then.
So what's missing? What's missing in your mind is an anchor,
Yeah.
right? It's an anchor. You don't remember,
Right.
but I bet you remember what happened September 11th, right? Where you were, or what kind of job you're doing back then, everything, because it was a powerful anchor. Well, March 2000, March 20th, 2003, it was a result of that. Was the beginning of the war in Iraq.
Oh, Iraq. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The begin 2003, March 20th, first wave, right?
Mm.
So we're talking about what makes someone a threat. Or here you have boots in the ground, right? Boots in the ground. You are a strange man, right? In a stranger man's land
Mm.
that you know nothing about it.
Mm.
You never saw combat in your life, nothing, right? So hold to that thought, right? You are a strange man inside of a land of a strange man that you know nothing about, a culture that you don't know shit about, nothing, right? And you stand as a sort of, right, with your helmet, with your camouflage, your weapons, right, your iconography, right, your numbers, your shields, everything. People can see you from a mile away. They know who you are, right? So April 10th, right, 2003, Baghdad falls, right? Around May 23rd, give and take, 2003, the army, right, the Iraqi army, they just run away. They disband. And what they did, Sean, they took the uniform, put the regular clothing, and they blend in with the population. They disappeared.
Just melted into the countryside.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone. Hold on to that thought. Who's the threat? Right? Who is the threat now?
The
Right?
insurgents, they turn from combatants to insurgents, right?
Well, by June 2003, insurgency started to brew inside of Iraq. Right? Everybody's dressing. Don't believe me? Look at a couple of pictures. Right? Everybody's dressed in shades of gray, white, burqas for the females. You don't know if it is a female underneath that burqa. Everybody pretty much look the same, skin color, all almost the same, scorched by the desert sun. Right, everything is either sand color or shades of gray, whites. Um, it's all you have.
Yeah.
Now I want you to picture an American soldier not used to that environment. He's standing right there. Everybody knows who he is. They know everything about him. So I want you to remember this word, baseline. Very important that you remember about this word, baseline. And underneath, I want you to write the word normality, normality, or normality, whatever you want to pronunciate. So normality and baseline.
Okay.
So they went to a country, right? They had no idea about the baseline. When you hear the word baseline or normality line, what comes to your mind? What do you think that means?
Baseline is it's like a starting point, essentially.
Right?
Normality is status quo, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Correct. Correct. You're correct about that. So they had no idea about the baseline there. They don't know what it is. They had a briefing and people says, well, it looks like the people's going to shoot at you should be male. And I don't remember the age, but it says, well, let's say 17 or 18 and above. You should be afraid of this, but that was just guessing work, just guesswork, right? And people, Marines is started to die, Sean, like in a huge numbers. So great, right? So great that the general there in charge, right, General Mattis, he said, listen, this thing is not working because we're being proactive here. We're dying, right? And with any proactive work, what they did, they got killed by IEDs. If you know what IEDs is, let me
I know.
know.
Improvised roadside bomb. Yeah.
Exactly. And guess what the Marines did? The top command did. Reinforce the armor, give better armor to the soldiers.
Yeah.
They put a better armor underneath the tanks, underneath the Humvees. Observation. So get this mental anchor. I want you to get this mental anchor, right? Everything that you do, I want you to picture in your brain right now a Humvee being lifted out of the ground, exploding. I want you to see that vehicle come down again. And I want you to see on your right somebody watching it,
Mm.
right? Watching it. So everything that you do becomes somebody else's observation. Can't help it, right?
Right.
So the insurgencies, well, they're getting better with with the armor underneath their Humvees. They, the soldiers have a better armor, right? Let's make more powerful IEDs,
Mm.
and Marines still getting killed until this guy said, "Listen, we have the OODA loop, but we don't know what to see. We're not seeing the enemy. The enemy sees us because for some odd reason, which is not odd at all, but for them was odd, right? They knew where the patrol was going. What time? It was so easy to put the IEDs in there. It was like shooting fish in a barrel,
Mm.
right? You see the difference now being proactive, right?
Yes.
Right? So they are being the reactive side. Vietnam was the same thing. If you look at Vietnam War, was the same clusterfuck, right? And so what he needed, he said, "Listen, I need something. I need to change my Marines mentality. And look how powerful this is. It was, I want them to be or to have the mindset of a hunter, not a prey."
Mm.
You see how powerful this is when you think about those two words, right? Think like a hunter or like a predator,
Mm.
right? To understand the predator, see what he sees, do what they do, and then you can be proactive. Then you can be ahead of them, because that's exactly what these insurgents was doing, because they knew how the American mind worked. They knew the Americans love children. They cared a lot about children. They cared a lot about dogs. Again, knowing the baseline, the same love you have for a puppy here, Sean, is very different than in Baghdad,
Mm.
right?
It's a different culture entirely. They look at
Culture.
them as like vermin.
And this is not about race. This is not about anything. It's facts.
It's
It's
a cultural
different.
difference.
So you gotta know the baseline. So they knew that about Americans. They cared about dogs. They cared about children, right? So what they did, they put dogs, right? Lunchtime in Iraq, right? You can't stand outside. Even if you stand outside, you can feel, right, the sun on your skin. It burns,
Mm.
right? It's hell on earth. So they put a dog there in a leash, right, tied to a tree or whatever, because they knew Americans will approach to try to save that animal. Matter of fact, it happened a couple of times. Kids by themselves, right? And somebody tried to get close, right? It was traps everywhere, exploring the American baseline, right? By understanding how your enemy thinks and behaves facing stuff like that. How powerful is that, right? It was an occasion that it was a kid inside of a car, lunchtime. And this guy, I forget his name, he was patrolling, and one of his soldier said, "Lieutenant, can I go there and give this kid water? He's gonna die inside of that car." And this lieutenant, he didn't know, but he felt chills all over his body, and that gut feeling, right? The gut feeling that people deny today, that people don't study anymore, called intuition, told him this is a fucking trap. So he vocalized that feeling. He says, "Don't go there. Don't you dare to go there." As he finished to say it, the car blew up. Right? How powerful is that? He didn't know
He
why
just had that intuition, though.
exactly. Right? And then we're going to explore that a little later in the course. But he just had that feeling not to do it. As he's finished saying, the car blew up. Right? So because of this guy, this general, he asked for a better program. It says, "Hey, we know about the OODA loop. We know we have to observe. We know we have to orient ourselves, and then we have to decide, and then we have to act. But we don't know nothing about these people. We getting killed." So that's why they created a new program, so they could, right, see it before it happened. And because of that, Sean, right, thousands and thousands of lives, marine lives, was saved when they implemented that course, which is the same course you're gonna have us access to it. In this course, I modify it more to our needs. Okay, and everything that you're gonna see it throughout the 4 modules is this. You can apply this to anything. See, as you did your research about Boyd, uh, that applies to a meeting with your client. It applies talking to someone that you never met before on the streets, doing an interview for a job, right? Or just try to bid on a job and talking to somebody that holds your money in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So OODA loop is very powerful. And before we start to go into it, I'm gonna ask you a question. Can you give me one example, just one, not in a tactical world, but in a business setting that happened a while ago that someone that had a grip on what OODA loop means and the other company didn't, and they went bankrupt, and the other company succeeded and they're a powerhouse today, and the other company is gone. Same line of business. Go.
So what immediately comes to mind is Netflix versus Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
Same field, same market, same industry.
Mm-hmm.
One saw the future, the other one was mired in the past,
Mm-hmm.
to fixed stores as opposed to So start with Blockbuster. They had thousands of stores strewn across the country.
Mm-hmm.
They sold videos, and this up and comer Netflix, they had sorry, not Netflix, but the precursor to that. So that would have the what is the ones that you order? They have them in every store. It eventually Netflix bought them, but they were we'll just
Yeah,
go with
Netflix was the first, right? Netflix was the first, and they start to send the DVDs to your house.
yes, yeah, yes.
Okay. So what was Netflix observation?
So Netflix's observation was the streaming market, was how vital the internet was becoming, and how important it was, and how
Well, not streaming because they send the DVDs to your house, right? The primary observation that made them to orient themselves, decide and take action. What made them decide, hey, we should let's go down to the action. What made them act of presenting it a product that goes to your house with a prepaid envelope?
the
What made them do it?
the accessibility, and understanding people a little bit better than people like something that's easy, something that they can just do, from the confines of their home. They don't have to get out and go someplace.
Yeah, but they did that doing because of what?
Maybe because Blockbuster had a stranglehold, and that was their
Well,
Aryan forest.
they observe
Yeah,
the enemy's baseline.
right,
So you're gonna know your baseline,
right,
right? Baseline is you had to physically go to the store, you had to drive.
right.
That's observation phase. You have to drive, go there. Sometimes people says, "Oh, we don't have that title." You have to wait, right? And then you have to pay for late fees.
Hmm.
You know the rewind fees. Remember that?
Yeah, I
Pay
do.
for the late fees, and then you bring that thing back home. You enjoy it. You're excited. Then you have to rewind that crap, and then you have to drive again to the store, and then you say, "Oh, I forgot that thing inside of the car. Got it scorched by the sun. Now I have to pay for this thing." Right? Or, oh my God, I forgot. 3 days later, and then you have to pay for the rewind fee or for the late fee, whatever you call it. So Netflix was watching. It says, what about if you offer a product, right, that eliminates all that,
Mm.
and then you can keep the DVD as long as you want,
Right.
enjoy as much as you want. You see it? Observation,
Mm.
right? And then comes orientation. This is, well, this is gonna be really good, right? This is the right decision. Let's talk about the rest of the things that can't go wrong. All right, it's A, B, and C. And then what's the action? All right, what is the decision? Let's put on the market. Let's test the market. And then they took action, right? No late fees. Don't have to go to the store, right? Was there on demand for you? I said, listen, it's here for you, right? And right away, if you don't have this title, you can choose that title, right?
And then
And
they
they
continue the loop.
right? And then what happened to Blockbuster? After Netflix went through all the steps of the OODA loop,
Mhm.
what happened with Blockbuster?
Eventually, the coup de grace that was streaming, and they continued the loop, but long
They
before that.
stopped. The problem with Blockbuster, they stuck on observation,
Right.
like many Americans. Oh, this thing that's never gonna go, never gonna stick,
Mm.
right? This thing will never prosper. Netflix is never gonna be a household name.
Right.
Stuck on observation. It's stuck on observation. Netflix is watching,
Mm.
right? Netflix is watching Blockbuster being stuck on observation. They're taking more steps,
Right.
more steps. It
Right.
came like a streaming. Now you don't have to have
Go
the
anyway.
DVDs in your house.
Yeah.
Go to your computer, go to your TV, and the rest, my friend, is history. It's
There's one
history.
in the country out of thousands of stores. There's one Blockbusters in the country.
Exactly, right? They never saw the threat
Yeah.
because they never knew how to look for the threat. That's the blockbuster story. You have to know what to look for.
Mm.
Otherwise, you can't see it.
Right.
Netflix saw it, all right? They say, hey, these people, they're stuck on observation. Let's go to the cycle again. Let's go to the cycle again. If you do that all the time, right, you find holes on your own OODA loop. If you're gonna be proactive, you're gonna get inside the enemy's OODA loop and throw a wrench in there so they get stuck and you are ahead,
Mm.
right? And you are ahead. So what happened with the Marines, right? They only took action after the attack happened, right? Because of what? Number one, lack of knowledge of that country's baseline, right? Strange man and a strange land. Reactive versus proactive. So remember those words, right? What about the enemy? What the enemy had, Sean?
The enemy had the watches, so that's for sure. They well, we had the watches. They had the time, as something I heard. But they had the so many advantages. They could blend
So,
in.
all right, blend in. You
They could
got it.
blend in. They can. They had the element of surprise. They didn't have to. They weren't in any fixed position, so that they could strike out of nowhere. You know, they had the benefit of knowing the enemy's movements, the Americans' movements, so that they could plant IEDs. They could use other tricks of diversion, as where we had very limited options. And
Right. So they know how to blend in, right? They know how to adapt the new situation because you are in my house,
mm,
right? I know every corner of my house, and you are coming in the dark. I know every corner. I know where to go. You don't know, right? So you have to adapt. So they adapt to the new situation because the Americans was inside of their house, right? When I say house, the country,
sure.
right? They knew how to avoid detention by blending in, looking like anybody else.
Mm.
Hey, I'm just a farmer, right? I'm just a farmer. I'm just a family man. I'm going to the market, right? And one of the things that was overestimated was the resiliency they have tá? Physically to endure
Mm.
the heat because they risen born in there, right? And the Americans, they are not prepared physically,
Soft, most of them.
right, to go in there and deal with that heat. It was hell. Imagine with that whole equipment on it, hard body armor, helmet, all that equipment, right, on that hell of temperature, right? Foreknowledge about the enemy and the baseline, normal, abnormal. What is the baseline here?
Mm.
What is missing? What is adding? They don't know. If something was missing, they didn't know because they don't know what's normal, what's abnormal there.
Right.
Very important to know, right? Had to survive and then to respond. That's a hefty price to pay. When you have to survive an ambush and then respond, it's a tough way to learn, Sean.
Mm.
Tough way to learn. Like I tell people, I tell my daughter all the time, you don't have to fall inside of a hole just to make sure there's a hole. I am telling you, it's a freaking hole. I've been there before. Don't fall in. Young people, they want to fall in and says, well, this is a hole, right? So, so the Marines had to get attacked, right? Had to survive for the ones that are lucky enough, right? To be able to respond, right? Reactive response. That's what they had, right? And they had, like I said, the reactive response was to adding more soldiers. A bunch of people die. Hey, give me more soldiers, right? What about a better armor? What about a reinforced Abraham tank,
Mm.
right? But everything that they did, Sean, became the bad guy observation. The bad guy said, hey, they're adding more soldiers, right? We had to build daisy chains. What is daisy chains, you know? You know what the daisy chain is?
Yeah, isn't it? It's like a tripwire kind of a thing.
Daisy chain is a bunch of IEDs connected to
Yeah.
each other,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
Right. So let's make more powerful. Let's put a lot of uh, is still ball in there,
Mm.
wires, nails, whatever. Let's make it very nasty and destructive.
Kind of like what the Viet Cong did, you know,
Exactly.
with their
Right.
they didn't call them IEDs back then, but with their you know,
Hmm.
improvised explosives.
So after a bunch of soldiers die, which is a shame, so they have to shift, right, to a new paradigm, right? Shifting from reactive to proactive was the only choice any army on the world have, if you're smart enough,
Right.
right? Because some people is still doing the same shit and getting killed. If you don't believe me, take a look at now the First War and Second War. That's all they did, right? That it was not a strategy at all there.
Trench warfare.
Yeah,
That's essentially
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Blitzkrieg kind of changed all that.
So they changed their mind from prey to be hunted to be the hunter, right? Because if you don't have that mentality, you're screwed, right? You're screwed. So one thing I want you to write it down. These are the points that you have to think about it. Write this. Every attack has a genesis. And I'm sure you know what the word genesis
I do.
means.
I do, sir.
Every attack has a genesis. So the reason I'm saying this to you is no one's sipping a pina colada on a nice hammock in a nice resort will jump up and say, "Hey, I'm gonna kill someone today." Woo! It doesn't happen that way, right? And they're listening to Mozart to make everything more calm, right? Nobody's gonna do that. Everything has a genesis, right? They they know already what they're gonna do. Some people take months and months and months and months, years, right, of meticulous study to do something, right? That's why people don't know. That's why people that doesn't know how to look for threats, or when the threat happens, they say, "Wow, but Joe was a nice guy. It's impossible." What do you mean? He was friendly to everyone and it was a nice guy. I never saw that happen. And then people ask to start asking question about Joe. He says, "Well, now that you're talking, I saw Joe asking about guns and he hated guns. And over the sudden he started to buy magazines and stuff like that. But they never saw it, right? They never saw it. That's why I ask you the difference between observation and actually seeing something, right? Because you don't know where to look. That is the reason I tell people all the time. Nobody sipping a pina colada is going to jump up and say, "Hey, let's kill some people today." It doesn't happen that way, right? So that is why the paradigm shift in Iraq or in Vietnam was important, was to look for indicators, to understand the enemy, to be able to defend against them, right? Because take a look at this, right? Your enemy, your enemy's OODA loop is spinning. That's why we call it a loop. Is spinning at the speed of that. They already made up their minds to do you harm. You don't even know it.
You're behind the eight ball. Like they already
Exactly.
made the action. They're already in the action stage.
Exactly. They already decided. They already decided. All right. So how can you be proactive, Sean?
In every situation, or is there?
Let's say in our jobs, or we're standing here, which is not to die.
So always do things that that what comes to mind is like even on the basic things, like if like that one that you shared on Instagram where the hitman was walking down the center of the aisle and approached the man from the back and just very ploddingly pulled out a big, looked like a revolver. I couldn't tell. It was kind of a small, it was on my phone, and then just shot him twice. Things like not sitting with your back to anything. Like I do that, and I did that when I was a child. I never, when I go out eating someplace, I never take the seat that has my back towards the door or any, like I always take the wall so I can see exactly what the hell's going on.
Exactly. So here's what you see around you, right? I
Mm,
want you to pay attention on everything, right? People expend a ton of money on reaction, on
mm,
the reaction phase, right? So they reinforce the doors and locks, right? They put barriers there. They put more cameras, right? Something happened, an attack happened, right? Let's put more cameras, right? Let's reinforce the doors for Christ's sake, right? Uh, let's put more guards. Let's train how to hide behind the tables, right? And keep quiet and hope the shooter won't find you. God forbid, right? So playing dead is not the answer either,
no.
right? So your best option is to be proactive. The goal is to be on that proactive left instead to be right, right? Reacting what's happening to you. Try to back battle, right? So first, number one is knowing where, how, and when, and who, right? Profound knowledge of your local baseline. Third, know how the enemy MOs are,
Mm,
their modus operandi, what they do, right? Have the enemy reacting to you. And fifth, informed or deliberate awareness. Very important that you remember that word. Deliberate or informed awareness. Do you know what that means?
deliberate awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do.
Okay.
So deliberate awareness, I'm cognitively observing my surroundings with the intention of scanning and finding inconsistencies or something that could go wrong, as opposed
Absolutely.
to like if something like indeliberate awareness is like bang, I heard that gunshot or something like that, and it's like okay, now I'm snapped into it and I'm here and I'm paying attention, as opposed to hey, that guy that just walked in is holding his wrist is he's holding something in his hand and he's got a paper bag over his up to his wrist. He might have a gun in his hand, and he's making his way towards the register.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's probably about to rob the place.
Yes. So depending of who you are, right? You are a normal citizen.
Mm.
Are you a police officer? Are you a military operator? Who are you? Right? And depending of your answer, right? You have to be you have to adjust. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want anybody to be paranoid. Well, I'm not saying you have to be paranoid either. However, I prefer to be a bit just a little bit paranoid
Yeah,
than to be dead,
right.
right? What I'm saying to you is let's take a look at a restaurant, right? How many people do you know that drives around the restaurant to see the exit from the back? Is there a dead end in there,
Mm.
as you see in the movies? Or it is open to a back alley with free traffic left and right?
Mm.
Or is a dead end? Can you, if you exit out of there, can you successfully save your life by doing so?
Mm.
Right? How do you get to the back of the restaurant? Is there one way through the kitchen, or is there is another way to exit out of there? Bathrooms. Is there a window there? If is there a window, where that window is gonna put you through if you can fit in that window, right? So by doing all that, depending of the situation you are in, let's say you know the baseline of the city that you're going and you know it's dangerous,
Mm.
right? Take a loop around the restaurant, right? If you get inside, take a look where the kitchen is and how to get to the kitchen. Plenty of weapons there. Okay? If you sit down, like you said, find a spot you can control the entrance. Take a look at the table. Is that table can hold, right, a punishment long enough for you to access your firearm, to have a little time to do your observation real quick,
Mm.
right? And to make sense of the situation, right? If you get the ambush, if you can see it first, because if you're good, you can see it coming through the door, even before the door is open, and you can grab your kids and run towards the kitchen, right? And exit the situation, even participate in that. How's that?
It seems like it covers all the bases on
Right?
deliberate awareness.
Instead of don't trust your gut feeling, don't trust your expertise, and stay there and pay the price, right?
Mm.
Because even if you have a gun, right, and you're good with that tool, should you be involved,
Depends if my life is at stake.
right?
Right. If
If
they're just
you
robbing
have,
the place
if
and not
you have,
killing anybody, right?
if you have a way to get out of the situation, do it,
Yeah.
right? So don't put yourself in a situation just because you have a gun, because it's not your job. If you are an operator, you are on uniform, you have no choice, right? If you're a police officer inside of a restaurant, you cannot just go and run to the kitchen and exit the restaurant, because then how
You're
are
a
you
coward.
you're a coward, right? Because you get paid to protect
Serve and protect.
the sheep, right?
Yeah.
So it is different situations for somebody. If you are with your daughter, your son, your wife, you have someone to protect, and you pay an attention. I'm not saying you're gonna eat like this, right? But you're gonna glance once in a while. You're gonna pay attention. And if you have a spouse and children, they have to know that shit too. You have to teach them. And here's the problem: most people don't do that. They don't know the codes. If I say to you yellow, right, you know exactly what I meant by yellow. I don't have to say, hey, there is somebody coming through the door and he's got a gun. When I say Sean, yellow, you know exactly what I'm saying, right? You'll be prepared, because Josh, between me and Josh, the word yellow means dangerous is coming. I have to do something, right? If I say red, you know exactly what I meant. Because if you don't teach them, they're gonna die with you, because they don't know, right? If I tap someone twice on the shoulder like this, but if you don't know what that means, right? It's useless. So all that is here for you to learn, right? And then somebody called themselves, hey, I'm a tactical instructor. I teach self-defense. Do you? Right? Do you? I teach OODA loop. Do you? Right? Ask yourself that question. So let's dive more. What is informed awareness? Like you said, you have to be present, Sean. You have to be present. You cannot get hypnotized by all the stuff around you, right? Phones, everything around you. Because if you do, you're never gonna see it coming. You're never gonna see it coming. You're gonna react to it, and God bless you if you get out of there alive. But if you get buried, not present, right? You're hypnotized by the routine, right? You wake up in the morning, it's the same thing, right? You drag yourself to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee, and then you go and you put your clothes on, and then you drive, get in your car, you don't look around you. You don't look at the streets. Oh, there is a car there. That's a red car with the plate LF 348. I never saw that car before. Who's the guy? Right? You never see it. You observe him, but you don't see it because you're hypnotized by your routine.
Mhm.
Far away, there is someone watching you. Oh, this guy wakes up this time. He jumped in his car at 8 o'clock. He stopped in a gas station, got a pack of cigarettes at 8:48. 8:48, he goes to his job. Leaves at 7:45. Stops by Joe because he likes Joe because Joe is nice to him. Buys a jug of milk and go home. All right, that's all he does. It becomes an observation from somebody else, right? So, but when you are aware and it is deliberate, right, you're changing your routine, right, intentionally, because you know someone is observing you. You don't know who it is. They have the upper hand because you don't know who they are.
They're in the
But,
shadows.
but you know there is a possibility. So you are changing your routine. What you're basically doing, Sean, you're making them stuck on observation loop. So you're throwing a couple of wrenches in there to disrupt or destroy their OODA loop, right? And they're thinking you're living at 8, you're living at 7. They're thinking you are living at 7, you live at 6. You do a couple of loops around your house, right? Again, you gotta know your baseline.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm here talking to you today is because I learned that a long time ago. As a cop in Brazil, right, for a long time, people, right, intentionally and deliberate went after you. That's why so many cops die in Brazil every day, right? Because they'll hunt you down to the point that someone told me, he said to me, Josh, you're very hard to kill, right? Because this guy was actively looking to get me, but he never found me where he thought I was, right? I knew my baseline in a very violent city that I worked, and I know the weakest point of my house coming in and coming out. So I changed it, right? I took a couple of loops around my house, right? And I suffered a couple of ambushes, but I survived because I saw it coming, right? So if you look at the videos you see from Brazil, it happens all the time with cops there. And the ones who died is because they never saw it coming. Just like that video you saw of the guy getting killed in front of everybody having lunch,
Yeah.
right? And some people says, but that's impossible. How come nobody saw the guy coming? How? Hypnotized, comfortable with his back to everything, talking, very relaxed, never had his back against the wall.
Even the people around him, when the guy was about 7 to 10 feet away, pulling the gun out, it looks like the lady looked at him and just like, hey, this guy's got a gun coming up to us.
Never saw the hands,
No.
right? We're gonna go to there, but never saw the hands, right? And never saw the hands. Hypnotized by the environment,
Right.
right? They're not hunters; they're prey, right? What sheep do?
They
They
graze.
look. They look up. There is no danger here.
No.
There is no danger here, and they keep chewing, grazing, right? So they never think it's gonna happen to them. How come? So and so was so nice guy. He was great. You don't know who's after you. You don't know. I don't know, Sean.
Wife probably didn't like that guy, or whom he probably had some shady business deals. If
No,
he's
no.
got
I happen to know. No, I happen to know the city. I happen to know the guy. Just so you know, right?
the
Yeah,
video that you showed.
my family lives there. So that guy was the father of a local politician. Was a
Mm,
political head.
mm,
You
okay,
see what I'm saying?
that makes
You
sense.
see what I'm saying? So was a political head. But when you are inside of situation like that, you're gonna be aware, right? Don't do stuff like that. Oh, nobody's gonna get me here. Think again, right? Think again. The reason I want to talk about that video because you saw if you're not trained, you're not gonna see what happens there. If you look right in the beginning of the video, you can see the guy coming way down street, and he's coming, coming.
Walking in the
Simple,
grass, not walking on the sidewalk or anything like that.
you know what I
Just
mean? So the people didn't react to it, Sean, because the ambush is the most dangerous type of attack because not only attacks your physical but also mental state. Just like right there, you're relaxed talking to me, and somebody comes from behind that chair and pops a balloon, right? There's a little bit that space between the flinch response, which is this or that, right? That little space there, right? It's enough. It's enough for the guy not only do the harm, but also to flee. If you look at the video, you can see the people fleeing in the same direction, at the same direction of the bad guy. But if you don't study that stuff, you can't see it. You digest that video just like anybody else. You can't see it. The reason I like to put videos and explain about it is because I can teach you how to see it, right? I can teach you how to think, to take the blockers and see what I see. That's the purpose, right? So informed awareness, just to conclude this part, is what to look for and how to look for what and how, right? Because if I don't teach you that, it's gonna be just an acronym. So conclusion is this: you must have a systematic system that can show you the indicators, the brewing, right? The fire underneath that pressure cooker, right? You can see the flame slowly, slowly, and you can see it, that pressure cooker expanding. Because when that pressure cooker explodes, now you are in reactive side. You're gonna see the simmering.
yeah.
Because like I said to you, that flame is the pre-indicators. and you're gonna learn what they are. But what you're gonna learn is what makes that pressure cooker to explode.
Mhm.
So you're hauling ass before explodes. You're out of there before it explodes because you saw it. You say, this is not good. I'm out of here.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you go left. Say, guys, see you later. I'm out. Right? Why? I'm out. Right? And again, right? Who is the threat? What makes someone a threat? Right?
Mhm.
So the only thing, Sean, the pre-indicators, the only way for you to find them, right? To find the pressure cooker is knowing, getting the knowledge of how to read behaviors, right? That is science based.
Mhm.
It's not based on my bias. It is something that if you look at someone from Sri Lanka up to Alaska, you're gonna see the same thing because they cannot help it but to display it. No matter how trained they are, they all humans display that behavior when they are under, right, any stress or any type of behavior. Okay, so reading behavior is not a passive task, right? It requires your ability to think with a critical mind, right? And we already talk about critical, right? Thinking, being present and know, uh, not having the sheep mentality, right? The perception, right? The problem with a lot of people, Sean, that teach that stuff, they have the bias and they look for the wrong indicators based on bias. That's what happened in Afghanistan. That's what happened in Vietnam. That's what happened in Iraq, right? You have to look for the variables, right? And when you take science out of the picture, Sean, when you put bias inside of that look, the critical look based on bias, right? You're gonna think that you should look for certain nationality,
Mhm.
skin color, religion, sex.
Mhm.
When you do that, is when you die, because it can be anyone, right? It could be anyone. It could be blue-eyed, blonde, male,
Church going.
church going,
Right.
right? What about the domestic terrorist, McVeigh?
Timothy
You know,
McVeigh was he looked like a choir boy. you know.
he was a God-fearing man, veteran,
Yeah.
right? So it could be any age, gonna know that, any nationality, gender, any religion, right? And also pay attention. It changes every time because your enemy, OODA loop is spinning and they know how to think,
Mhm.
right? Here you are looking for somebody who's a radical Muslim and here and dark skin with certain clothing, and then comes a guy, right, using regular clothing, right, blue eye and blonde, and you say, well, that's a nice guy. I don't think he's a terrorist. That's called bias.
Mhm.
That's when you get screwed, right? And here's the kicker, right? Most of the attacks that happen, most of the attacks that happen, the attacker had no relationship or ties to the environment at all, right? They just did it to make a point, right? Just to make a point. And can you guess why they attack that particular point? What's the motivation?
In general, like, well, unless they know the person, if it's somebody who is just two people are complete strangers,
Well, let's talk about terrorism.
terrorism,
Yeah.
to terrorize, to instill fear.
Now, why they chose the scenario?
Probably because it's the softest target. It's the easiest.
Exactly. So lack of threat. Because think about it, unless you are suicidal, right? The lack of threat from the victim, right? If I don't offer you any response or any threat whatsoever, you're gonna say Josh is a potential victim from me. I'm gonna hire him to be an actor on my movie. On that movie, he dies. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Because any psychopath out there or anybody wants to do you harm, Sean, they want you to be an actor on their movie. So guess what you have to fit in? The script.
The script, yeah.
If you don't fit the script, right? It's that guy Josh. He's got
Not
an
the right
attitude.
actor.
He's got an attitude. He's got a front. There, he's got a shirt saying tactical something. And it's summertime, and he's got this big shirt over his shorts, and he's got a t-shirt underneath. This guy's got a gun in there, and you'll be right if it is about me, right? This is how I walk every day, right? This is the paraphernalia that's on me 24/7, but you don't see it because it's concealed, right? And I know how to conceal. You'll be right about me, right? And you said, no, I'm gonna choose someone that's not gonna harm me, right? It's not gonna offer any, right? Any fight back. In the case of the terrorists, let's analyze September 11th, since we are uh, celebrating, not celebrating what happened, by celebrating the people, the heroes that died that day, right? What happened there? What made the terrorists choose the towers?
Most visible, demonstration of American exceptionalism. Very super visible target that was hittable. Was hittable.
Well, they want to send a message,
Yeah.
right? You're going to find the motivation first, right? Observation. They say, well, that's iconic
Yep.
to the world, not only the United States, but the
Right.
world.
The world.
Right?
World Trade Center.
Iconic, right? Observation.
And they tried before. They tried before that.
Exactly. In the basement. So what happened with the rest of the observation, right? How can we choose something that's already there, to use as a bomb to bring down the towers? And somebody said, well, what about if we choose airplanes, right?
Fully
That
loaded.
they have a full tank,
Yeah.
right? Let's choose them, and we're gonna use the fuel, right? We're gonna use the fuel to explode the towers. Velocity, we have the fuel, we have the velocity, everything. How are we gonna get it? That's the questions you ask yourself on orientation. How are we gonna get it? And if we're gonna get it, what is the security around it? Is it easy to get in and get out? Right? When you ask those questions, that's an orientation phase, right? You find the answers, right, for whatever you're doing. What do you think the terrorists did before they went all the way down to action?
They had to get a lot of intel, and they learned how to fly planes.
Yeah, they already did. They already did that observation orientation, right?
Yeah.
That's done.
Yeah.
So what's the first thing they did? You think they did
To set their plan in action.
to do the whole thing? What's the first thing they did?
They
Of course, they
decided.
look. They look.
They
Right? They
decide.
look. They thought about it. It was a good plan.
Yeah.
Now the first thing they did, Sean, was to move here.
Yeah.
Move here first. They move here. They blend in with the help of people that was already here. We know that.
Yeah.
They got lessons, Sean. They
Yeah,
moved
that's
to
how
Florida. They moved to Florida. They got lessons in Krav Maga and how to work with knives. How's that? Nobody was observing. OODA loop anyone? Right? OODA loop anyone? Nobody observed. Nobody was looking, seeing, deliberate awareness was out of the window. A group of four males living together, an apartment, all of them taking lessons of Krav Maga. All of them wants to take lessons on how to level airplanes, how to turn, but not to land.
Right. Right.
Would a loop anyone?
Yeah.
Right? And the lack of security on airports. What most important, Sean, was the dry runs. Dry runs is very important. Right? They did several dry runs on airports with box cutters, right? Just testing it. Dry runs is very important for anybody, good guys, bad guys. Learn that because you can collect a lot of information. Talk to security people, make friends of them with them. Talk about it, right? Dry runs every time, dry runs all the time. They all came here, they stayed here, they made friends, they did dry runs, they flew airplanes, they learned everything about the doors, the cockpit, how to get in, how to get out, all of it. We call this baselining, Sean. They want to understand the baseline at airports. Look how powerful that is. The best case study ever for this whole thing we're doing now is 9/11. And then they decided to act, Sean, and it was 100% successful. And the results, you already know what happened, right?
Well, near 100% successful. Shanksville, they got thwarted there.
That was bonuses.
Yep.
The main goal was the towers, and they
Towers in the
got
Pentagon.
the rest of the bonuses. The rest was bonus.
Yeah.
Right? That was the motivation, Sean. As you know, they're never gonna try again because they know people are watching.
Right.
And you know what they're gonna do?
I'll probably try to do like a dirty bomb or.
No, they are looking now. They are in observation phase.
Well, we just, I mean, not to get political or anything like that, but we did just let a whole lot of unvetted Afghanis into the country. So who the hell knows what?
So we're talking about variables, Sean. Variables is a powerful thing because you don't know what's next.
Right.
We don't know. And they are observing us. We are concentrating on one thing and they look the other. The reason we're talking about variables because we tend to have bias. Oh no, they're gonna try airports again. They're gonna try airplanes again, and they're looking something else so totally different. This is how you get people.
Right.
Variables. Right? It's the same thing if you concentrate that somebody's gonna attack with the firearms. How do you know they're gonna use firearms? That's why it's so dumb, right? When politicians wants to ban guns. Oh, really? Do you think a bad guy gives a shit about your banning guns?
Yeah, you're banning the people that are going to stop potentially,
Exactly. So the weapons could be anything, just like the scenario. They don't give a shit about the scenario. What they give a shit about it, the bad people, what they give a shit about it is the lack of awareness of that location, people, and everything else. They study that shit. They don't choose something because they like it or they have personal attachment. They don't go says, "Hey, I'm gonna rob that," but it's very difficult. It's a lot of security. We can get killed, but I gonna do it anyway because I want that. They don't. They say, hey, let's go to that spot because that spot is the weakest. It's true in nature.
Right.
Look at predators in nature. They
You
don't
can
go
go
after
swim with a great white.
look at lions.
Right.
Lions, they don't go after the strongest bull.
No.
They go to the ones they think it's weak. That's why they charge right in the middle. The ones they say that goes to the right or left, they don't stay with the pack and they see the young, right? The reason one lioness charge the group is to see who's fucking it up, right? Because lions, they have a very short sprint. They cannot chase forever.
No.
So they have a strategy hardwired to their brains, so they know they work as a team. So whoever is looking, not following, right, the herd, the ones that not running so fast, they can smell and say that one is the weakest link. Let's attack that. That's the smallest. Let's attack that because predators don't want to get hurt. Believe me.
No, their business is prey. You know,
Mhm.
they don't want to. Their business isn't fighting. They want to eat.
Exactly.
Just like if you see a great white and you jump in the water to it, it's not going to just attack you. It's probably just going to swim away a little bit and try to get a lower position on you to actually look at you. But initially, it would attack you.
Yeah. So if you look at something that happened really close to you, right? Close to you, which is the Boston Marathon bomber. That guy used something that you can buy anywhere, right?
Pressure bomb, pressure cooker.
Pressure cooker. So he bought that. And who's going to question you when you buy a pressure cooker?
Nobody.
Right? He blend in. If you look at the photographs, right? He blend in really well, right? Baseball cap, young guy, both of the brothers, right? They blend in, and they
kind of white skinned a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happens there, right? They didn't look like terrorists at all. They didn't have that stereotype. Here's the problem, right? Remember when we talk about it, to look specifically for a race, for a body type, or sex type. That's the problem with us, right? And nobody was aware around them, right? Because they put they took the backpack, put it on the ground, and left, and nobody saw it. How powerful is that when you're talking about be aware, whatever you are, be aware of it, right? Nobody saw it. When you heard the bang, it was too late. Too late. And the outcome you already know, right? A speeding car, right? You don't need a green camouflage truck to be dangerous. You go to Home Depot and you rent a U-Haul. Who's gonna pay attention to a U-Haul truck? No one. The sheep is gonna see that I am sitting on a sidewalk having a beer with you, and with the corner of my eyes see a U-Haul truck coming. Who's gonna think that that guy is gonna speed up right about when he is 5 feet from the sidewalk and then steer towards my table and yours? Who's gonna think about that? If you are watching and if you are in the right spot, can you see it coming? Yes, you can. But only if you can see it, right? To exemplify that, one guy used a rental truck in France and killed a bunch of people on the sidewalk, by the way. And one attacker in China killed 20 people with a kitchen knife. How's that? So what's important, Sean, for somebody perpetrating the attack? What's the most important ingredient?
Element of surprise.
No, I'm talking about the guy. His state of mind.
His state of mind. To cause the most damage.
The intent.
Yeah.
The intent is the most powerful thing for good and bad, right? It's the intention,
Mm.
because the intent is the most powerful thing, and most people don't have it, right? How intense are you in doing everything you have to do whatever you want? How much focus you have, right? So that is the reason, if you focus only on obvious weapons or means, right, you will miss one thing that the bad guy, or the good guy for that matter, use, which is the unpredictable. Right? Miyamoto Musashi, he said, the enemy that I fear the most is not the trained, but the unpredictable person. And he was one of the best samurai, the best fighter that ever walked on this planet. Right? So the weapons that you have to be afraid of and pay attention is the one that you never thought possible that could be used as a weapon. Example, airplanes. How's that? So, concluding this part, this chapter, Sean, right? If you chase, right? If you chase the current enemy's tactics, right? That you think he's gonna use, right? And modus operandi, you will be always one step behind the enemy, OODA, because they already know your current ways to counter them. You got it?
I do. I do.
So, to conclude this first module, we we recap, right, from the beginning, right, and how to look for threats, right, the difference between looking and seeing, observing and seeing, and the knowledge that you need to really, really be good on observation, right? And there is a lot more to do on observation, but that will be the second module of this, so we don't overcharge our brains with this, because we can do 3 hours here easily today, but then a lot of stuff will be lost,
Fall
right?
through cracks, right? Right.
So let's take a small chunks, uh, meditate and think about what I said,
I will.
because I'm gonna put you in the spot next time, right? Because I'm gonna ask stuff about this one, a couple of questions about this one, and but it's an amazing subject. It is. I love to talk about it, to learn about it. Every day I try to learn just a little bit more about it, and I am glad that you took interest to talk about it, to learn
Thank you.
about it, and I hope you have a good rest of this Sunday. It should be nice outside, right?
Yeah, I've still got a whole bunch of paperwork to do. I have
Okay,
invoices and
that's a good thing.
yeah, no, it's quality problems. I'm booking out a couple of months. I'm actually double booking. This will be the best year that I've ever had financially.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
it's good.
So have a great day, and thank you for the opportunity, Shmuel.
All right, thank you for the opportunity, sir.
All right.
All right,
All
talk to you
right,
soon.
brother.
All right.